Okay. Well, I am Aaron Budris with the Naugatuck+Valley Council of Governments. I'll just go around my screen. Desiree,
I'm Desiree Blanchard, Communications and Community Engagement Coordinator with NVCOG.
Mark,
Yeah, good morning, Mark Nielsen with NVCOG.
Tom,
Tom Doherty, Environmental Planner, NVCOG.
Paul,
Paul Benevich, Watertown Town Engineer.
Michael.
Good morning, Michael Gainham, Watertown Parks and Recreation.
Thanks for joining us. Bill.
Good morning, Bill Lineski and Sonia Economic Development Commission.
Thanks, Bill. Cleve. You're muted, Cleve.
1, 2. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Bill. Cleve, we cannot hear you, Cleve.
Sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. Cleve Vucinich, Litchfield Economic Development Commission.
Jerry.
Jerry Lukowski, Watertown Public Works Director and Acting Water and Sewer Superintendent.
Jack.
Jack Walsh, Derby, co-chair of the committee.
And I assume it's Amanda.
It is Amanda Birch, Chair of Thomaston Greenway.
And we just had Jim Kulpa join. It's connecting. Jim, do you want to introduce yourself?
Jim Kulpa, VHP. Does that work?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, that is our group, Jack.
All right, then why don't we get started? As I said, we don't have a lengthy agenda, so it gives people a little bit more time. But let's jump right into the projects. And the biggest ongoing one right now is Waterbury. So I don't know who can speak to that.
So I have not gotten an update from Judy in a little bit, but I know they were wrapping up design. Mark, I don't know if you've heard anything about the rights of way or anything that they were working on.
No, I have not. Again, I haven't heard we haven't gotten an update from the city in a while on that. I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the right-of-way issue that the department was going to handle the rights of way because of that was one of the big hangups is the city didn't have a process in place for acquiring rights of way. So with the state, handling it, it should proceed. But yeah, I haven't had an update since a long time.
Yeah, I don't know.
There are no funding issues there, though, are there? All the funding's in place for what?
Yeah, we haven't heard of any. Again, where our concern was always with these types of projects that the feds were going to cancel or withdraw the funding. That hasn't seemed to have been occurring with this, and the funding is in place. The money has been obligated pretty much, so I think they're all set. The only issue is I haven't seen the cost estimates recently, but there had been a concern that the construction costs were going to exceed what money was available. So that could be an issue going forward. I don't know how the city was planning on handling any cost overruns.
All right, anything else to report on Waterbury then?
Nope.
Oh, okay, why don't we move on to Ansonia? I think I saw before her had trouble. Bill, you want to talk about that? Bill Lineski?
I'm new to the group at the moment. I don't have anything really to add other than observing what's going on and trying to get caught up. I do have a couple comments about accessing our downtown from the NRG. Presently, we have two routes, Bridge Street and Maple Street, and it's actually illegal to drive on the sidewalk by ordinance. So that's something I want to address. Were there plans to eventually add a bike lane, a shared bike lane on those bridges as part of the project?
Mark, can you talk to that? I don't know.
Oh, excuse me. That I'm not, again, I'm not sure how they were going to make that final connection. Going over bridges is always kind of problematic because, they're not usually wide enough to, provide a sort of a shared use type of facility. Um, Yeah, my guess is, again, they're probably going to do some kind of a bike lanes on road, not, routed over a sidewalk or anything like that. That's usually not the acceptable approach. So, I haven't seen the designs again on that for a while. So, I'm not sure how they're going to be addressing that. But my guess is that it'll be some kind of a bike lane on on both sides of the road on the bridge.
Right. Okay. Another question related to that. Has the concept of a pedestrian bridge from the center of Olson Drive been considered or discussed at all?
That I have not heard of. No.
It was something that was discussed quite a few years ago before the sale of the Olson Drive property.
Yeah.
Maybe something like a bridge of flowers. I'm kind of reaching a little bit,
Right.
but just something wanted to put out there on the radar.
Yep. It's it's always a possibility. The problem again is funding is somewhat limited.
Right.
And the city does have the funding in place under the Transportation Alternatives Program under the federal USDOT. To build a multi-use trail up to Nolan Field, from downtown. I doubt there's sufficient funding in that grant to, do a dedicated bridge, pedestrian bridge over the river. They are very expensive.
Right.
The logistics or how to locate is always problematic. And any kind of a pedestrian bridge, needs to span the river itself. You can't have pilings into the river because that opens up a whole lot of flood management control issues and other issues related to that. So it does become difficult, but I haven't not seen that in any of the plans that they're putting forward.
Right. Right. Well, especially with the flood control wall that
Yeah.
has a lot of restrictions there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Understood.
that's always a very um, problematic issue to deal with because now you're dealing not just with you're dealing with FEMA and places, the Army Corps and things like that to make sure there's no damage to that structure.
Great. Thank
Jim
you.
Culpa, do you have anything on the TA project in Ansonia? I know you guys had done the routing study. Were you guys also doing the design for the city?
Correct. So we are the designer for that
Okay.
project. So Kristen Levesque is overseeing that as the PM on DOT side. So we can't oversee the project and also design the project. So we're kind of siloed in that respect.
Right.
But we do have a grasp on Ansonia and the history there and how the various projects were constructed. So Bill, if you'd like to have a call, we can bring you up to speed on that as well.
Appreciate that.
Because I've overseen basically all the different phases that were constructed out there.
Okay. Thank you.
No,
So do we have a route from downtown to Nolan Field yet?
As far as I know, yes, because the TA money was to actually design and build. So the routing study or the route has been established.
Can you guys see the map that I'm showing on the screen that's
Yeah.
zoomed into Ansonia? Or am I?
No, I can see it, Aaron.
that's perfect, Aaron.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't have an update from Bill on where design has progressed with that. I know they were working on PD last I checked.
That the yellow line there is what was determined as the preferred alternative during the routing study that Ansonia completed maybe 2 years ago. So it follows Olson Drive, up 334 a little bit, and then off-road behind. There's businesses here, sort of industrial. Sort of behind these businesses, behind Burns, this Burns yard here where they're doing some gravel work. I think that's a new development there though. So the original plan was to sort of do a big switchback up this really steep grade, and then behind the residential neighborhood up to 334 again, and then across 334 to Nolan Field. So that's the I think that's the last I heard. I have not seen any design at all after that.
Right.
So hopefully that sheds a little bit of light for you, Bill.
It does.
So what is the next step? What is the next step in Ansonia then?
Well, with this, it's they have the funding to design and build it with the TA funding that they received. I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 2.
So that's sort of on a course to get completed. And then, the connections north from Nolan Field, I think are very difficult. And, I'll be talking a little bit about the Kinneytown NRG design, which is on the other side of the river. But I think we have a really clear path to get all the way into downtown with the trail in the future. So I can talk about that in a minute, or if you want me to jump to that.
Yeah, why don't you jump to that so we can see the picture of how this all fits together?
Okay. So we've talked about this before, but I know there's a couple new folks here. So Naugatuck+Valley Council of Governments is working on a project to remove Kinneytown Dam, which is just upstream, about a mile upstream from the Ansonia Seymour town line. The main dam is in Seymour, which is right here. It's a big spillway going across the river. Upstream of that, it is impounded. So there's a reservoir behind the dam that goes all the way up almost into downtown Seymour. So the impoundment is ends just below Broad Street, depending on the water level. So this is all impounded water. As you can see with the reservoir there's really not a lot of room to put a trail anywhere in between the highway and the railroad. But once the dam is removed, the river is going to look a lot more like it does below the dam. So there's going to be quite a bit of room on either side of the river. So, when we started working on the dam removal project, this you could see by the dotted line in between downtown Seymour and really downtown Ansonia. There was no route identified yet for the trail because of those constraints. So we saw the dam removal project, as an opportunity to look at that and design the trail in between, really in between downtown Ansonia and downtown Seymour. So we received a bunch of funding for the dam removal. We got a big NOAA grant. We got some federal and state funding in it as well. So we've got almost $50 million for the dam removal project. We know it's going to be a much more expensive project than that, but we went out separately and got a Rec Trails grant to design the trail as part of that. So the trail wasn't included in the money that we got through NOAA, but it was sort of, discussed in the vision. So we got the Rec Trails funding to design the trail. So we have hired a designer who's working on the dam removal design, and we also tasked them with the dam or the trail design as well. So there's a lot of questions at this point about what we're going to be able to do with with the leftover. So the biggest issue with the dam removal project is the impoundment is really silted in. So there's, almost 1 million cubic yards of sediment that's built up behind the dam. All of that has built up over, since the 1955 flood at least. There's several layers that are very contaminated. So we have to do something with that contaminated sediment. We're not sure right yet what exactly we're going to be able to do, but the working idea right now is to take a lot of that sediment, pump it into Coe Pond, which is part of the reservoir system. So the dam originally diverted water into a canal that flowed into Coe Pond. That canal extended all the way down into downtown to drive factories. So the idea is to pump that somewhat contaminated sediment into Coe Pond, which is full of very contaminated sediment. Cap it, so this will no longer be a pond, but it gives a really good opportunity to route the trail. So Coe Pond is impounded by an earthen dam that runs between the railroad and the pond. So this is a nice flat area here that could easily support a trail. And then south of this, we're looking at the old Ansonia copper and brass site is owned by the city now. So all this property here is city owned. So there's a lot of opportunities to get over to this paper road, North 4th Street. It's no longer a public road. So that's one way to get into downtown. There's other ways like coming up 4th Street and going down through Gadsden Park, and then to Liberty Street, to North Main Street. So there's, a pretty good way to get at least to North Main Street and onto the sidewalk network and into downtown. And then north, following this earthen berm up, following the canal, which is going to be drained on this side of the railroad. There's a way to get underneath the railroad with using the existing bridge or a bridge that's going to be built as part of the project. And then north of Kennytown, we're still not sure which side of the river makes the most sense, where there's going to be the most land gained by removing the dam, where the river channel is going to end up being. DOT has already, said that they prefer it to be on the highway side than on the rail side. But there might be physical constraints to that. So, these are all things that are being looked at during the design of the dam removal, and the trail design is being incorporated into that dam removal design, so that we're thinking about these things as they're determining where the features are going to end up being after the dam is removed. So that
sounds as though this is going to be a long-term project.
It's going to be a long-term project. I think construction in 2028. It might start in 2028. I think that's our goal right now. There's also a sewer project that has to be done before the dam can be removed, relocating some sewer siphons that go underneath the impoundment. So, that's likely going to happen next year in 2027. And hopefully that will lead into construction of the dam removal in 2028. I've talked to Jack and Rista about maybe featuring this at the August meeting. I think by August we'll have a much better idea on the what constraints are going to be out there when the dam's removed. We're going to have a sediment management plan by then. We'll have a 50% or 60% design for the dam removal. I think it'll be a really good time to get everybody out into the field, possibly if anybody wants to take a walk out there, and we can walk the route that we've sort of been envisioning and we think makes the most sense. And about that time in August, we're also going to be going to the public, to the neighborhoods that are going to be most impacted by this, and get their feedback as well. So, I think if everybody agrees, I think we might plan on doing that, and we can have the the designers come out to our meeting and sort of talk about those constraints. And then I'd be happy to lead a field walk following the meeting to get everybody out there and get all your feedback as to what you think makes the most sense.
I think that's a good idea. We haven't done a field trip in a while, so
Yeah,
it's always nice when you can see what we're actually talking about in person. Oh.
Yeah, and I'm
All right,
happy to
anything
answer
else?
questions, but yeah, that's
Okay, any other questions about the Ansonia project?
There was some
All right,
talk
what-
of, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Bill.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Bill.
there was some talk about using the industrial bridges to be rebuilt as a possible access crossing the river there. Is that still something that's possible?
this one here that goes to Ansonia Copper and Brass.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know the city had been looking for funding to rehabilitate that bridge and maybe widen it, but I don't know where that.
Yeah, I don't have a
I don't know where
status
that
on
went.
that either.
And all those buildings are going to be torn down there too, right?
That's the goal.
Yeah. Okay. All right, ambitious project.
Yes.
All right, why don't we move on to Watertown? You know, who's going to take this?
Yeah, I'll take that, Jack. Paul Benevich, Watertown engineer. Yeah, the Watertown Greenway design, especially from Frost Bridge up to the Thomaston Branch Brook connection, which has been waiting for our side of the trail to be designed for some years so they can proceed with their designed and funded plan, I believe. It's in the works. We don't have sufficient funds to do the full design, we believe, of the 2.38 mile trail. We've got almost $300,000 in our grant, but that runs out in September. I've already put in a request to Kim, who I believe has gotten on at least phone on the meeting here to see if we get an extension for that. But based on that money, we're going to try to hire a consultant to get at least to probably the 35% design phase of that trail, that section of the trail. You know, it's pretty long, pretty involved. We've got the railroad, the Waterbury water main through there, which
Yeah.
we've done a fair amount of soil testing, test pits, and I believe we can handle the cover issues on that side of their water main, you know, the issues they have with the other side going down the old Route 8. But this is a cast iron line that's more, I believe, according to Waterbury Water, is more durable and hopefully can handle the construction coming on this side of the trail. And we need at least probably double. We've applied for another 300K in the Rec Trails grant, which is still pending since December. So that's still, we're waiting on seeing funding for that. So.
Oh. Okay. I have a question for you, going back to the early construction. The you know, the innovative toilet facilities that you put on part of the trail. How has that worked out? We did a site visit.
Mike Ganem could probably answer that. Those, you know, that's a Parks and Rec thing.
Oh, okay. No, I was just wondering how, because it was, I mean, we did a walkthrough on that, and I was really impressed by that and the potential for that. I was just wondering how it's holding up. So, but
yeah, I don't believe they're open right now. And like I said, it's really a Parks and Rec thing. I don't know if Mike got off the meeting here. He was on earlier.
Yeah, I don't see him anymore.
Okay.
And I do have, just to help reinforce Paul, we would like to use the selection process that the NVCOGCT did for the race grant. We're running it through our town council and our town lawyer to see if we could, it was a, you know, a verified, you know, on the spot selection process. And plus, if Ray's ever does come back, you know, would you be using the contractor, the consultant that was selected, I think would be key. So we don't have two different consultants, you know, working on the trail.
Aaron or Mark, can you talk about that?
Yeah, don't hold your breath about the race coming back. So, and my guess is if the program continues in the coming years, it's going to be beyond 28 before anything like that would be available. And unfortunately, given the time that had passed between the original and any new thing, they would want us to go out to rebid or request project proposals and things. So I think you guys, if you want to choose the consultant that was selected for the Raise project, I think you're on good solid ground now, because that was a proper request for for qualifications based selection. So it follows all the federal procedures and things like that. So you'd probably be okay to do it. Again, it's going to be up to your town whether you want to accept it or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like I said, I wouldn't worry about having different consultants going forward if Ray's ever came back because it's not likely.
No, that's thank you for that, and that's what we would like to do, at least to get to our 35% design.
Right.
Uh,
And you if you got one of any of the background information, the solicitation, the dates we sent out, the RF request for qualifications, any of that information, just reach out to Aaron and we can get you that documentation and show you what our process was, the scoring sheets, from the selection committee, things like that. So just to demonstrate that it was a proper procedure for selecting a consultant.
Great. I could also thank you very much, Mark and Aaron. I could give an update on the Steelbrook Greenway construction.
Go ahead.
We're probably about 25% complete. We call it Steelbrook Greenway number 2. Number 1 was a gravel path behind the Siemens company. You could see it on green in the map. So we're currently working on the yellow and the red. I did make a video today of about 30 pictures. I sent it to Aaron and Thomas on the screen here. It's the sub base is going in. A bunch of half dozen plus culverts have been placed. The bridge has been ordered. It's a pedestrian bridge right at the top of the yellow to cross the Steelbrook. The micro piles will be going in for us to get the proper footings in for either abutments on both sides of the bridge. Kelowna is the contractor. They're really doing a great job. They're ahead of schedule. Would also like to great construction administrator, construction manager from Weston and Sampson. But I would also like to give credit to VHB, who helped me throughout the design process. And basically, if I was slacking on something, they were, they helped me get through the process. Great bid. I think we had the construction portion was 2.4 million. Kelowna came in at 1.9 million. So it's federally funded through the DOT. So it was a good thing. And the other thing I'm trying to work on is Steelbrook Greenway number 3. It's to the south if you want to just move the screen up a little bit. So that, but not that far, just a little bit to the right.
Yeah, the green portion. Yeah.
So the federal project ends where the red and green come together. It's a bridge, that existing bridge that crosses the Steelbrook. But that green part to the right is phase 3. We have, it's either DECD funds or DEP funds for this, around $300,000. The contractor gave me a proposal, the current contractor, Kelowna, and it's just at 200,000. He used his unit prices. It's a great bid, but we were told by the legal department at the DEP is that we have to go out to bid. So I don't know if there's any way I could get some help to work around this. The low bidder, Kelowna, that came in $500,000 less than the construction estimate, held his prices. He's mobilized, and he could get the work done. And it just ends right to the right side of the existing pedestrian bridge at Main Street. Just a little bit further, right in there. So that we would have it, from Main Street all the way to French Street. Also on French Street, we're going to have flashing beacons in the crosswalk that tied to Steelbrook Greenway #1. So I don't know if you have any thoughts or guidance. I see Kim's on the line. If Kim could help or Aaron could help. We have it written up. We have a great price. Otherwise, within the next couple of weeks, we're going to go out to bid, and and we have a bid that we use the unit prices. The federal state DOT project, the current one that's ongoing, they wouldn't let me tie it to the project as an addendum, or they wanted to keep it totally separate. So that's just my pitch for help to get this completed.
So that would be a construction bid, right? That's not engineering or design.
Correct. We did the design in-house. We did the permitting in-house. We're having a public hearing next week on it. So we checked all the boxes. But what came back was, we're going to have to go out to bid. And I want to use the bid for the vendor that's, right on site right now. He held his unit prices. The grant was around 300. And the contractor gave us a proposal for $200,000.
Jerry, who's paying for the construction of that next section? Is it going to be your local funds or federal, state?
It's either DECD or DEP funds.
Yeah, I think you're kind of stuck. Unfortunately, you're going to probably have to go out to another bid solicitation for construction. The federal and state regulations and rules typically don't allow you just to say, "Oh, okay, we have this guy out there, and we'll just continue." It's not a. I can't see them, unfortunately, accepting, the fact that he's out there already, because it does, it just doesn't seem the proper way of doing it. So I think you're probably going to have to go out to a new bid solicitation for construction of that section.
Yeah, so I got my spreadsheet out. It's a Urban Act grant.
Right.
Yeah. And this is Kim Bradley. I just wanted to say, so Urban Act is actually managed by our finance division, and they've been even more kind of constrained and holding to requirements. There are CHRO requirements associated with this, so it's construction in particular. So unfortunately, I think you have to follow the required process.
Yeah.
There's really no way around that, unfortunately.
No, and I appreciate, everybody, trying to help. But we're ready to, once we have our public hearing, we'll be ready to go out to bid. So, we do good on our designs, but we don't, we don't like have a dozen to 2 dozen designs under our belt as an internal design shop with something like with Weston and Sampson, put out.
I will say for engineering and design, NVCOG has a pre-qualified short list that we had originally put together for use on LOTSIT projects, but they just did a re-solicitation, and we have a brand new list that I believe is posted on our website. But the intent was to try to open it up so that municipalities could use it for certain things, for certain engineering projects, mostly transportation projects. But I think trail design might fit in there. It all depends on really what your procurement policies are in your town.
Yeah.
But it was a qualifications-based selection that was made, and the way we use it is, if we have a project, we'll send out a request for proposals to the shortlist and have them. It's basically becomes a cost-based decision at that point. Because everybody's already been pre-qualified on the list. So something to look into if you have a design project and you want to maybe speed up your procurement process on it.
Great.
And again, I think the way the RFQ was written, for this most recent one, it did open up the category, shall we say, that it was covering. So I think we tried to make it as flexible for the town. So I think for especially a trail project, you could use that list again, it's up to the town to decide if they want to follow that, use that list, to bypass sort of the QBS, because we've already done the QBS process.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, keep up the good work. You got a lot going on there. So, all right. Well, unless there are any other questions, let's move on to Naugatuck NRG design. Aaron, you going to do that one?
See, Jim Stewart is on.
Yeah, I'm here. So we are probably through Kleinfelder at, I don't know, I guess in 20% of preliminary design, or 20 of the 30% design. We are, working on the final routing and the final termination point for the Greenway. We actually requested a meeting with Kevin in the next week or two to talk about that project among other projects for future lots of funding, just to make sure we get everything correct. And of course, since our cost estimates were, I don't know, from 2018 or something, so they're it's gonna be more than that if we include everything that we originally did. But we're hoping to have the design done this fall, winter, and be ready to hopefully do construction if there's lots of funding next year.
Sounds good.
And Jim, separately, you're also designing new river crossing.
Yeah, the pedestrian bridge. So that's kind of like a preliminary design at this point, is my understanding. So they I think pretty much finalized the location, which will be down at Hotchkiss Street near the bus lot, and it'll tie into where Rubber Avenue is extending, tying into what we're calling South Water Street now, heading to the train station. So it'll be, right where those buses are, crossing over to where down south from there a little bit. Crossing over to where Rubber Avenue is going to loop along the train tracks going to the new train station.
Yeah, and for anyone who's not familiar, this piece of land here has been long sort of underutilized, and it's going to be the new train station. And there's a lot of TOD development going on around there, so residential and commercial development. So, I think this is going to be a really great feature along the trail, and it's going to, the trail will be a great, asset to, the new residents and visitors to that neighborhood. So
Exactly. So the first building of that TOD development on the northern part of that site is up and should be open. I think they were saying August, open and start to be used, and the train station is still a year away. My understanding, at least a year away. So, and then the second development, which is in the very southern portion of that, the grant request is in, and we still have some cleanup to do. But we're hoping that will start construction, fall.
I was down there a few weeks ago, and Naugatuck looks a lot different than it did. Like
Oh
a
my
year
God,
ago.
it's
pretty
huge
great.
difference. And then all our downtown work is finishing up, and should be done in the next couple months, I would say at the latest.
As part of that bridge project, we were asked to collect some data on the existing Naugatuck River Greenway sections. So we had pedestrian counters out on right where the trail meets Maple Street, just north of the bridge. We counted, let's see, 64 average daily trips, or about 23,000 annual trips there, which, I mean, it's really basically a sidewalk. I think it will be a lot more utilized once these developments go in, because that's a way that you can get north along the trail. So quite a long section here is really I think it's a 5 or 6 foot wide sidewalk along the highway and highway exit ramp, but that gets you to the park here. So we also did counts at the pedestrian bridge on Bridge Street, and we counted 212 daily trips there, or about, estimated 78,000 annual trips. The data from those counters are now featured on the Connecticut Trail Census website, and we also just installed a brand new counter just north of the parking lot in the park, sort of near the pickleball or tennis courts. And that will also be on the Connecticut Trail Census website. And I think that'll be a much bigger number there. I think that's a much busier section of trail. But we're excited to have a new counter out on, tracking use on a section of Greenway. So thank you to the town for agreeing to that, and see what we catch out there.
Okay. Anything else on Naugatuck? Yeah, again, in a lot of ways, this transit-oriented development, all these greenways are perfect fits for that. It's just a nice synergy between economic development and recreation. So, all right, let's move on. Beacon Falls, Main Street.
So no one from Beacon Falls is here, but they have put in a pre-application for lot zip. It has been approved basically for a reconstruction of North Main Street. So in between Depot Street and Church Street. Right now, if you're familiar with downtown Beacon Falls, it used to be old Route 8, North Main Street. So it's separated. There's 2 lanes in both directions. They came into lot zip looking to do a reconstruction, basically, reconstructing what's already out there. Again, 2 lanes in both directions. And we've been having a lot of discussions with the town that, if they're going to spend, it's a pretty big price tag for this project. They're going to spend that much money. It's a really good opportunity to rethink what North Main Street could look like, to make it a lot more pedestrian friendly, to make it, more driver friendly as well, because it is 2 lanes in both directions. It's There's no reason for it to be 2 lanes. There's not that type of volume, traffic volume out there. And also make it a little bit more friendly to visitors of the businesses down there. So we've just been having really preliminary discussions. Our engineering team here at NVCOG has been working out some concepts with the town. And just, for discussion's sake, one of the concepts is, eliminating traffic on one side, turning one side into bidirectional traffic with, 1 lane in each direction, and then using all of this, gained space here to create, the Greenway, possibly extra parking for some of those downtown businesses, park space, maybe flex space where they can have, street festivals or vendors or, food trucks, things like that. So it's really in the beginning of discussions right now, but, what we envision is, right now this green line here is really just a sidewalk. It would be a multi-use path, really, possibly landscaped, lots of places to, to interact with the businesses and, definitely more safely navigate this section. And just for everybody's benefit who might not be familiar, right now, their phase 1 Greenway took one of the southbound lanes, which, it was 2 lanes all the way through here. They took one of those lanes and created this trail. It's kind of hard. Oh, there it is. Created the trail that right now terminates at Route 42. And, we're really hoping that, we can continue that all the way down, or, we want to talk to the Department of Transportation about, possibly either extending that road diet all the way south or, again, making this into a 2-lane road rather than a 4-lane road. And, utilizing all of this gained space to, to make it more park-like, sort of riverfront greenway. So there is a lot that will hopefully be going on in Beacon Falls shortly along the greenway.
Sounds good. I mean, they have a nice little park along the river there. Actually, two little parks there. So they've done some good stuff. So let's hope it continues. Harwinton.
So Rista sent me a Harwinton update. Let me see if. Whoops. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. So from Bogue Road to Route 118, which was part of the routing study that we did in completed in 2020. Let's see if I can find it for you here. So this is Bogue Road here to, I believe, 118 here. They have, I believe it's a Rec Trails grant. Kim, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But they were out to bid and received 4 proposals for the final routing and design of that section. So that is underway. Brista said they're hoping to kick off the project in June or July of this year. So that's exciting as well.
Aaron, do we have anything actually open in Harwinton right now, or will this be the first formal?
This will be the first formal
piece in
thing. Yep. We talked. Harwinton's a really long section. Harwinton and Litchfield. So Litchfield, the town line between Litchfield and Harwinton is the river. So, it depending on the the final routing, one of those towns might have a lot more than the other of trail in their town. We did talk to Harwinton about a really good opportunity. Valley Road in Campville is a very, very lightly trafficked road. It's used a lot by fishermen fishing the Naugatuck River, so there's pull-offs all along it. People walk on it as well and walk their dogs. I think it's a little over a mile of town road that could be designated as Greenway, as a shared use roadway. So that was one of the recommendations of the routing study that was published in 2020. We talked to the town a little bit about it. Maybe it's worth starting those discussions again. I wouldn't say there was like reluctance, but I'm not sure what the downside is, but so it is walkable right now. It is, the preferred route, but it's not technically marked as a part of the Greenway.
Good. Right. We did a walk through there prior to that, right? Way back when, 2020?
Yeah, when we were doing that study, we did a walk with the mayor and some of his staff. It's a really beautiful section of river too.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
They were a little bit reluctant at that time, if I remember, though, weren't they? They were afraid of the neighbors wouldn't want it.
I think there's a couple of people that live on that road, and there's one or two businesses that I think they were, they didn't want to upset.
Yeah. Well, the more they see success in other areas, though, the more likely they are to see that, some of the concerns aren't really concerns. A lot of it is not in my backyard stuff. So.
Yep.
Well, okay. All right. Any other towns want to chip in here and part of the round table? If not, we'll move on to funding opportunities.
Just real quick, if I can interject.
Okay. Deep recreational trails.
So Jack, Bill has a question.
Who's going to handle that? I can't see, so
sorry, Bill had a question.
Yeah, real quick. Has there been some consideration to bike share programs, especially in the Valley, starting in, we have down in Derby, of course, a station in Derby, station in Ansonia, and a future station in Seymour. Has that been part of any of the design considerations, future bike shares? I mean, we could start
are you
all the way in
talking
Shelton.
part of the? Are you talking about as part of the Greenway or part of the, the reconstruction of all of the train stations? It should be discussed.
That would be
there
part
as
of
well.
it. Yeah, the overall, the Greenway, the transit-oriented development as well. So that dovetails with the entire project. Has that been part of the discussions to this point?
Not that I'm aware of.
Would it be a good time to start that discussion? I know Ansonia did a project with the scooters that didn't work out very well, but bike share programs down in New Haven seem to be working very well. And in other communities, we have a county Greenway. We're going all the way from Fairfield County to New Haven County and on up. That could be a way to get people from point A to point B and visiting all the different downtowns in if quicker fashion than walking, and even getting to work as well. So.
Years ago, I was out in Cleveland. I forget what the trail was, and they had bike things coordinated with the trains. Okay, where you could take your bike on the train to go to a distant spot and then cycle back down, or just the opposite. So, I don't think that's been part of the discussions of the train stations either, has it?
Not at the train stations, but we, talking to the Railroad Museum in New England, they were really interested in doing that sort of thing, Jack, where, there'd be they run a tourist train, where, they could drive you up on the train up to Torrington and you would ride back to, even Waterbury, where they could pick you up and bring you back to the station.
Mhm.
And they had actually set aside a box car that they were, planning to outfit to carry bicycles. But I do think the discussion about, some kind of a bike share program in the lower valley, especially where there are connections already in, between, Shelton and Ansonia and Derby, and hopefully soon to Seymour. I think that's probably a good discussion to have. And we've talked to, there's a couple models. There's the, sort of like the city bike model where there's stations and, they're pretty expensive to set up, and there's sponsorships involved, and but there's also simpler models that we've seen work in, on the Farmington Canal Trail, like in, I want to say it's Canton or Simsbury. They have like a town bike share, where they get old bikes, they fix them up, and you can borrow them. Basically, it's like a bike library almost. You can borrow them at local businesses. Cheshire had something similar. I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but they could be a good discussion for a future meeting. Jack, I can reach out to those. And that's sort of
I think
more of a grassroots way to do it, but
no, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. But I also think, when they're doing the train station reconstruction, they should be talking about this as well, because it does offer some tourism benefits in the long run. So I think all the groups should be talking about it and come up with the best model that would work. And I don't know what that is. 'Cause I did see bike share. We were out in Minneapolis playing basketball in the Senior Olympics, and they had a great bike program. And these weren't motorized bikes; these were just regular bikes that you had to pay a fee, but they were all over the place. That was fabulous too. So yeah, I think Bill's onto something here. So I'm all in favor of looking at it.
all right, we'll do some research and put it on a future agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, how about Graham?
So
Anything?
funding, I don't see Kim on anymore. Did she jump off?
Yeah, she had a message that said she had to run for another UConn meeting.
Huh.
My understanding.
Anyone on here applying or has a microgrant program at the moment, or any timeline?
My understanding is that they have they have met and scored all of the projects that were submitted in December. They're waiting for the bond commission to meet and,
approve the money.
Yeah, approve the funding, and then they will notify everybody. That's my understanding. And from other projects I'm working on, it's sounding like there will be a July bond commission meeting.
Do we have many microgrants from any of our towns submitted?
Oh, and then the microgrant program, Mark might know more about the microgrant program than I do.
Not specifically. Again, it's a program through DOT that provides small grants to a wide range of applicants, school districts, individual schools, towns. It's not really limited. It includes purchase of different equipment to support bicycle programs in the towns, helmets, pamphlets, things like that.
Right.
We've been real active. Tayo in our office is sort of handling that, and he's reached out to all the towns. We've been actually very successful. I forget some of the numbers, but for the last couple of years, it's like almost 30% of the funds have been awarded to towns in the NVCOG region. So, but we can send out more information of on the program, and I'm don't remember exactly when the deadline for submitting the grants are. I'll reach out to Tayo and he'll put together some information and through Aaron send it to the steering committee emails.
Okay.
I can tell you that Thomaston won 2 micro grants that we applied for.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Great.
Thank
What are you
you.
doing with them?
Yeah.
So the Greenway Committee is doing a bike safety course, and we're buying bikes, which will then be donated to other families or the town to do like a bike type sharing thing. Obviously, we don't have a Greenway currently to ride on, but we do have some areas where people can ride. And then Tony can speak to the other one. He applied on behalf of the town and the school system. So I know he's going to be doing something with those funds.
That's great. All right. Any other? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, no, it's a nice little program because it's, we're not talking about huge grants amounts, and they seem to be able to, process the applications and get the money into the towns fairly quickly, quicker than some other types of grant programs we deal with. So, and it has been very popular and very successful. That's why I think it keeps getting renewed year over year. And like I said, I think it's off. They do a solicitation more than just once a year. So, they try to keep soliciting applications until the sort of the money's
They ramped up.
yeah. So
What's the maximum grant that you can get under that program?
I think it's 5,000.
5,000. Okay. All right.
Yep.
All right. Great program.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else under funding? Events and public outreach. It's hard to believe Derby Greenway turns 20 years old on June 25th. It was actually open a little bit before the previous year, but it wasn't done. But it was done, and believe it or not, it poured the day we had it, and had the politicians just walking up and down the Greenway. I don't think they were too thrilled with the weather, but I don't think the city has anything planned. But it's a milestone for the Naugatuck River Greenway. It's means that the Naugatuck River Greenway is 20 years old as of June 25th. So, Connecticut Trails Day.
Trails Day is coming up. I looked through the events this morning, and there's quite a few in several of our towns. I didn't see any Greenway related ones, but it's always good to talk to people at those. So I hope everybody gets to enjoy those events.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that the COG, I think it was the COG, did a pop-up on the Derby Greenway a couple of weeks ago, but it was about gardening, I believe. I can't remember. I was walking the Greenway, but they hadn't set up. And the police were there, but the COG wasn't there yet. Aaron, do you remember what that was? I think it was about gardening, wasn't it?
I am not aware of that, honestly, Jack.
Yeah, it was on a Friday. It was on a Friday morning. They were there for a couple of hours. The police were already there doing safety issues, and it was actually a COG event, but they got the police to come in, and they set up tents in the parking area by the entrance to the Greenway. I don't know how successful it was, but something different. So,
Desiree, do you know anything about that?
I actually am not familiar with that.
Some other COG infringing on our turf?
Right.
Well, I don't know. I'll have to look back. I know they were set up that day. I thought it was the COG, but maybe it wasn't. So,
I
in any case,
I definitely think we should, the COG, at least if the town's not going to do something for the 20th anniversary, we should at least be promoting that and celebrating that on our socials, and maybe we can even try to do some kind of an event.
Yeah.
I think it's a big deal. And I think we should really promote that this is such a successful thing in our region.
Hey, Aaron, maybe we can reach out to Drew as well, since he's our municipal share. Maybe he could reach out to the mayor and see if, offer some assistance on, doing some kind of event. Because what day was it, did you say, Jack?
June 25th.
Okay, so we got a little over a month to sort of plan something. Maybe reach out to Drew. Maybe he can, see if we can get something arranged or whatever. Um, I mean, you have the nice the parking lot right there now where something to be staged, and it's right at the beginning of the Greenway, plus the new project, trail over the Derby Shelton Bridge. So, um, but yeah, I'd reach out to Drew, see if he can, because obviously it would be better to have the administration sort of behind and supportive of something.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay, sounds good. Anything I can do to help, let me know. I'm a little angry with some of the stuff on the Greenway and Derby at the moment, but always glad to help with that.
We will keep you
All
in
right,
the
how about the Waterbury Summer Family Day?
So NVCOG was invited to an event that the city is holding on the Greenway Saturday, August 1st in Waterbury at Platt Park. So we will have a tent there, and we'll have Greenway stickers, and we'll be promoting the Greenway and active transportation. So anybody that wants to come out, we'd be happy to have you, and I'm looking forward to it because I think just because you build these trails doesn't mean that people understand that they're there and that they're for them. So, the more people you can get out onto your trails, the better. And I think this is a really good example. So
They did a great job there. That's a nice area. They did a nice job.
It's a really nice park.
Oh. Okay. Anything else?
I just had
I think we have a couple of field trips set up. Go ahead.
I just had one other business. So Kate, who works in our office, sent me this the other day. So over the weekend, or actually just yesterday, I think they finished it. 2 students from, let's see, Babson University outside Boston. They did a long distance ride between Boston and New York. They started on the 11th. So on the 11th, they started in Manchester, Connecticut, rode to New Haven, and eventually joined the Greenway at the Derby Greenway, and then went over the Derby Shelton Bridge to Shelton. They stayed in Shelton on the 11th, and then they biked on yesterday, I believe, into New York. So Gustavo is from Brazil, Mario is from Mexico. Their total trip from Boston, New York took 250 miles and 4 days. And they took these pictures out on the Greenway in Derby. So I thought it was cool.
Eric, can you send that to me? I'll put something up on our site. I can't see what you're showing now because I'm on the phone. I just don't have the access. But if you could send that to me, I'll do something with it.
Sure, will do. And that's the only other news that I had.
All right. Earlier we talked about the, looking at the dam project as a site visit. Any thoughts about that? I think it's a great idea. But
yeah, I'll plan for it. I'll reach out to the designers. It's the firm's called Stimson. They're the landscape architects that are going to be doing a lot of the conceptual design work at this point, and then eventually the design work. So I'll have them attend the August meeting and give a presentation. And then I think it'd be great if folks wanted to get out on, a site walk. We held a site walk a couple weeks ago with the mayor, and Bill was there, and some town staff and commissioners or alders. And I think it went really well. I think it's really important to get out there and sort of see what's there now. I think it makes it a lot easier to envision what it could be. I love showing that off. So, I'd be happy to do that.
I guess the question would be, do we have the an on-site meeting or a meeting at City Hall and then do the trip, or do we do them separately? In the past, we've done both. You know, we've
Yeah,
had a meeting
it's
and then did the tour.
we can definitely do something in Ansonia. There's a couple, like Town Hall has a pretty nice conference room, City Hall.
Yep.
There's also the Senior Center where we've been holding all of our Kinneytown Dam meetings. So we could hold it at one of those. It's a little difficult to do, hybrid meetings in a remote location, which is why, we've tried to lean toward doing, a fully virtual meeting or a fully in-person meeting when we do that. So that would be the, I don't know if we get as many people that maybe can't travel or, can't devote the time that morning. So I don't know if anybody.
If we're to do it, the Senior Center, would they have that capability to host?
We could do it. It's just like we've got to bring equipment.
Oh, they don't have their own?
I defer to Desiree, who has to deal with all the logistics of these things when we have remote meetings.
Yeah.
I think we can do it. It's a little difficult, but
yeah, we don't have to decide that. No, you can look into the feasibility. We've got time because it's August 12th. So
yeah, the alternative would be to have a virtual meeting in the morning and then have everybody meet at like 1 o'clock.
Could do that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll work that out and get the word out to everyone. With that, I think we're at the end of the agenda. I think a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Tony Adili, second.
Okay. All those, I can't see, so I'm only listening to it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned and we'll see you somehow on August 12th. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, bye, everybody.